Oh, no, you didn't. You know, you're getting on my last nerve. And then I'll know it's whack! Greetings and welcome to That Works, a DreamWorks podcast starring a happily unemployed photographer barely getting by with DoorDash, a disgruntled ex-journalist now writing Scott Pilgrim fan fiction, and a spineless, asthmatic 26-year-old curmudgeon sweeping movie theaters for a living. And today,
we're doing it.
On our 14th episode, we've finally hit this point. Even though we had to go through Shark Tale, at least Shark Tale
was so bad it was fun.
Shark Tale is kind of an anomaly in itself. This is just letdown.
This is just money grabbing.
And they grabbed almost $800 million worldwide.
And in case you don't know what movie we're talking about, it is
Shrek the Third.
Shrek the Turd. I just had to.
Okay, fine.
Canceled.
Came out in May of 2007. I remember being in 7th grade and people talking about it. Wow. What grade were you in?
Is this just making him
There's
feel
not
old?
a number for the grade I was in.
So, yeah, I before I keep going, I just want to say this is the first example of movie hype for me. Because coming off of Shrek 2 being such a big deal and me loving it, this is one of those first movies when I first heard that it was like the first time I ever heard of movies being announced. And I was so excited, and I waited 3 years
it's
like
another
everyone
Shrek
else.
Movie.
Yeah, I was so excited. Where does the story go?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't hate it. I didn't hate it as a kid. I thought it was fine, and then every time I watched it since, I like it less. We'll get into it. I just wanted to share that story. Like, this is an example of movie hype and being let down.
Yeah. This is what introduced kids to the real world of being let down by movies.
So,
but especially with Shrek.
Yeah.
As some YouTube videos have stated, this is the moment the Shrek franchise became a joke. Like, not a meme, just a straight up joke. Like, this is the point where it's like, okay.
It's a money grab. Yeah. But go ahead, Liv.
So, without further ado, Shrek the Third. This is going to be a long-winded synopsis.
Oh, boy.
After 2 good outings, the Shrek franchise takes a dump on itself. Somehow making the animation look uglier, the 3rd installment finds the lovable ogre in line for the throne far, far away after King Harold dies a very insensitive death.
He croaked.
Yep. Knowing he's not royal material, Shrek, Donkey, and Puss embark on a quest to fetch the only other heir, a loser named Arthur, or Artie. Meanwhile, Prince Charming, still mad that his destiny was taken from him and his mother was murdered, rounds up the villains and conquers the kingdom, forcing Fiona and the other visiting princesses to literally have nothing to do for most of the movie. Will all these storylines run well together? Nope. So I'm going to start because I want to talk about that last part. And this is another thing I'm quoting from YouTube videos, the only characters that really matter in this entire movie, that progress the plot really at all, are Shrek, Artie, and Charming.
Yeah.
No one else really matters. Fiona does nothing in this movie,
which is sad.
It's sad because that's a great
in the
bunch
first
of characters.
2 movies. Like, she was like, I'm not saying she was the heart of the movie, but she was great and she was super, super important
and funny. And this one, she's kind of just there. And I remember, I think as a kid, even I was like, I feel like she's not in this that much. And now as an adult, it's like, yeah, she's really not in this. And even we'll get to the 4th movie in a couple episodes. She is actually an integral part of the 4th movie and has a character. And here she's just kind of there. And
she's just kind of pregnant in this movie.
Yeah, basically.
She's primarily there to be the thing that makes Shrek be an idiot.
Basically.
Mm-hmm. Because you have to have something be there for him to be an idiot. You can't just have him be an idiot.
Which is interesting.
Yeah, well, I mean,
go ahead.
On paper, I mean, obviously the way you wrote it, but on
In my binder.
on paper, the synopsis of this movie, like, it should be good because it's a relatable thing. Like, people get scared when they're about to have kids, especially if they're the first time. Like, what if I'm going to be my dad? My dad tried to eat me. Like, I even think there's a line in there about that. Like,
Which is one of the only good scenes of the movie.
yeah,
is the
but
campfire
like that scene where he's talking to him in front of the campfire.
scene. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And like on paper it works. Why doesn't it work playing on the screen?
It's also a logical next step.
Yeah, well, it should be interesting.
And juxtaposing the two.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to be a father, or I'm scared to be a father, whatever you interpret it as for him. And then the other thing of, I'm getting not only this responsibility for some like people's lives, I'm getting a responsibility of everyone's lives.
Everyone's lives as a king.
I'm not like that.
But
should
you
work.
see, here's the thing: the key flaw in that, to get through that as a husband with a wife about to have a baby, you need your wife to be a part of that growth.
Because guess
And you split up the primary relationship in the movie
for the whole thing.
literally the whole movie.
What do they have? 3 scenes together? Well, you have like the opening scene, the montage. Okay, a couple more than that, but still, it's like the first 20 minutes and like the last 10. So 30 minutes of an hour and a
main
half.
like quest part of the movie
is him just trying to find art and convince.
Yeah,
art.
and like Donkey's no help. Donkey is.
Mm-hmm. It's like they took everything that was good about the first 2 movies and said, "Okay, let's try to do something different." And
I get it. It's a logical, like you said, it's a logical next step. But
Yeah.
I think what made the Shrek movies so powerful is that relationship piece.
it really was. It's the relationships between the characters, between Shrek and Fiona. That's what made everyone fall in love with them in the first place.
It's like. Go ahead.
And then you take that away. Where's the love, Black Eyed Peas? Where is the love from this movie? It just doesn't. There's no.
It's like Community.
It's just irritating.
Community, one of the most beautiful group shows ever.
Yeah.
You take one piece away, it all just kind of.
It still works, but it's a shell of what it was.
Yeah, well, I mean, and it's arguable what piece got taken away that caused that to happen, even though I would vote for Donald Glover.
Oh, yeah.
As opposed to Chevy Chase.
Yeah, 1,000%. I agree.
Yeah.
But then again, you have, not to go off the Community, but then that 4th season, it's like, they're all still there, but then you take the head writer out of it, Dan Harmon. So it's like,
it's still a teammate.
so he's kind of part of that team.
Mm-hmm.
So,
But I'm just making a comparison
it makes,
to make the comparison.
which is 1,000% accurate.
Yeah.
And here's almost the worst part. That's what you were saying. I don't hate it, but I don't like it.
disappointed.
It's very
disappointed.
muddling. It's there. And that's what's so depressing, is because the first 2 movies changed my life. And I know that I said this before in the previous episodes, but I simply adore them. Like, they're like, I really cherish the Shrek movies. I know a lot of people do. I cherish the Shrek movies.
No, it's this.
Oh, I can't do the pinky. I have a
Yeah,
crooked hand.
the pinky.
Here, I'll do one.
And then you get Shrek the
He's a
3.
fancy.
And it's just like, I'm sad.
So here's the thing for me. I did hate it. But here's the thing. I didn't see it as a kid. And so...
Well, you were 12. Yeah, you were 20 when it came out, so you weren't really a kid.
I didn't see it as a kid. I even didn't really have that much of an attachment to any of the Shrek movies. So rather than getting my hopes up and being disappointed, I was like, when I saw it come out, another one of these.
It's like, all right, well, I guess.
And this one is warranted. It's like,
well, and see, here's the other thing. I remember the marketing for this.
Me too.
Being all about the baby Shreks.
Yeah.
How much are they actually in the movie, Jared?
There's a dream sequence and then the ending montage, which the ending montage, I think you've told me, is probably the best or second best part of the movie, and it's the last 5 minutes.
Yeah, the best part of the movie is unequivocally the play.
The play.
When everything does actually kind of... Well, when everybody gets into the same spot.
When everyone's together, it finally starts clicking, and Charming singing, I think, is hilarious.
It is.
We'll slice the thing up like a ham. I was laughing so hard.
I will give it. They like the voice actors do cheese it up. Like they like you can tell
Rupert Everett's having a fun time.
He is, and that's at least it gives it a little bit. That's what gives it a little bit more bump of me not hating it, is realizing that they're having fun with it. They're
for the most
part.
But then you make Eric Idle boring. How do you do that? How do you make Eric Idle boring?
I don't know. He's surrounding one of the best scenes of the movie, so
he interrupts the best scene of the movie with I kind of chuckled this time, but I was like, yeah, I'm laughing. Maybe I'm just pity laughing because I see what you're trying to do. But then you get to a good moment where Shrek is saying the whole thing about, like, I think we mentioned it in one of the other twos about Shrek. It's like, people used to hate me or whatever, or called me a monster. And for a long time, I believed them. And I remember sitting here this time, I'm like, see, that's good.
Yeah,
there's no emotional core of this movie.
That's because the emotional core is in the group of them.
Yeah, it just made me upset because I'm like, that's good. That's really good.
Yeah.
But we don't follow it up with anything.
I think it really stems down to the fact that they had a good idea for this movie. It was just the actual how they made it. Was just
the execution.
Thank you. The execution, they just went about it the wrong way. If they had still focused on the issues that they laid out, it could have been and this would have been probably up there. If you look at like big, I know it's not a trilogy anymore, but like if it would have been held up as one of the best trilogies if they would have knocked this movie out of the park. And I think that's also makes it disappointing.
Which they have that's big shoes to fill. Because the last two are just built on each other.
It is. So well. I mean, I guess it is also at the same time you have to look at it being, it's really, really hard to follow up the first two movies. Like that's like almost an impossible task, realistically.
I would say it's really hard for any of those movies to follow up any one of those movies. Even for Shrek 4 to pull it out of the dumpster fire that this started was a feat, even though it's not as great of a feat as Shrek 2 was.
Mm-hmm. And it has that thing that most sequels are supposed to do. You're trying to expand the scope and you end up adding more characters. And one of the hardest part about that, and a lot, like I'm thinking of like the Ice Age movies too. It's like you're starting to run out of things to do, so you just add characters with big names. Because this one, they have a lot of characters.
Let's go down the list.
We are not going down the list.
I mean,
but just go to IMDb. There's just so many big names in this, and some like Seth Rogen is the ship captain. I wrote that down because they put Seth Rogen in this as the ship captain in 2 scenes.
Mm-hmm.
Seth.
I wrote it in the binder.
He's literally...
No, that's not what I'm wondering.
Well, he's in Kung Fu Panda as well.
No, not what I'm wondering.
Like, I don't know. Well, look at all this. Look, I mean, Larry King was in the other one, but Justin Timberlake, Ian McShane, John Krasinski, Amy Sedaris, Maya Rudolph, Amy Poehler. Like...
Regis Philbin!
Oh, okay.
Why
I know what I'm thinking.
All these names?
I was confusing Zach Galifianakis and Seth Rogen.
Humpty Dumpty and Puss in Boots.
That's valid.
That's why I was like, wait, no.
Yeah, just and because we have so many characters, that's why when I said there's 3 characters that affect the plot. So you have Puss and Donkey, almost do nothing.
Yeah.
Because they're just along for the ride.
I'm not going to lie to you, though. They also have one of the funniest parts of the movie.
They do.
When they switch. And
that was entertaining.
It happens too late, though.
Yeah. Like, I would have liked that for the whole thing.
It's the third act. By the time they switch, I go, that's an interesting development.
Could you imagine if they actually would have done that for the whole movie? That would have been... That would have actually kept me interested in it, except for me falling asleep while I'm watching it.
Like when Puss can't control the noise and he's...
you'll get used to it.
You'll learn to control that. I go, okay, that's funny.
It has its moments. It really, really does.
And the ironic part about that is that sort of happened in Shrek 2.
Kind of,
Kinda, not really, but kinda.
But they still did like switching it up and making it look like different.
I will say, if it's one thing that's always made me cringe, even back when I was, 12, 13 years old, Artie is a bad character.
You feel so bad for Justin Timberlake because he really is so talented.
He does a good job in most things. In this one, it's like, there's nothing he can do. This is just not a well-written character, and I think people have noticed how...
That might have also been his first voice acting role.
Could
This
have
was
been
probably one of the first
earlier
roles that he
one, yeah.
had. Yeah.
It's got to be close, if not the first.
I'm gonna say
one.
the only other things which I think still came later was the SNL digital shorts that I know that wasn't voice acting, but that's like when he first started popping up on TV and movies and stuff like that.
Yeah. It's a couple of years before Social Network too, when he started just branching out more.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, I think the problem stems from another problem. There are many problems we've talked about. Shrek is supposed to be the emotional core of the character that's the heart of the movie because it's his internal conflict.
It's
and then
Shrek,
when Artie comes in,
third.
Artie kind of takes over a lot of that.
You're totally right.
And so now you're sitting there like, who am I supposed to? Okay, I'm following both. And then Artie's story doesn't really have developed. It just kind of wraps up at the play, and then Shrek's just kind of.
I think it was supposed to be this play thing. Well, obviously,
they set it up as
a play thing where there's supposed to be some kind of conflict between Shrek and Artie for the crown. Like Artie doesn't want it, and Shrek doesn't want it.
Yeah, it's
and he's projecting.
It really gives me like Jon Snow
thing.
vibes. I don't want it,
but it really just kind of doesn't work.
It's kind because again the whole Shrek is hesitant about being a father because of his own history with his own father,
his own issues,
and it's like they're trying to have him project this parental figure onto Artie, like he's acting as kind of this weird, you know what I'm saying, this weird father role, and it doesn't do anything. I think basically by the time you get to the play, all the storylines just kind of get dropped, and they just all end up there. It's kind of like, oh, here's a weird.
Because the only storyline that really matters there is the Shrek storyline.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a Shrek movie.
That's right. It should be about Shrek. Yeah. And then that's what one really quick thing is what you were saying previously, and I really, really stand by the fact that I don't like that they started making it too much about Artie. And I know you have to introduce new characters. I know that's important to sequels, but it's a Shrek movie.
Take over the movie.
It's a Shrek movie. You can't make it about the supporting character.
Like, this is going to be a bad comparison, but in The Empire Strikes Back, Lando shows up and doesn't take over the movie.
Exactly. He's there to support the main characters, and he does a good job.
And for a bit, move along the plot, but he doesn't. It doesn't all of a sudden become Lando Wars, although maybe it should.
Ooh, I'd watch that. I would watch the heck out of that.
You'd have to have Donald Glover.
Of course.
Now you want me to get into Donald Glover.
Yeah, now we got to make that happen.
I was going to make the comparison
Go ahead.
between this movie and the second Fantastic Beasts movie, in which it doesn't matter where the plot is, everything just kind of runs into each other for the climax.
For the sake of it being a climax.
It just does. Like in this one, there's more direction.
Yeah,
Fantastic Beasts, they just all end up there. It's pretty poorly constructed.
Yeah, but you're totally right. It does it for the. It's like they couldn't, and I'm not throwing shade at the writers because I know they're just trying to do their job, but it's like they couldn't find a creative way to actually tie everything together, and they knew it had to happen. Like you have to have a climax and have to end the movie, but they're just like, okay, well it's just gonna happen now because it has to, and they didn't like actually lay the groundwork for it to come together.
You gotta wonder though, is it the writers that can't make that happen, or is it people over them going, well, that doesn't happen in a Shrek movie?
That's what I mean. Yeah. It's all we don't know. That's the thing. So we can talk about why we think,
but we weren't in the writers' room.
We weren't there when they were talking about it. There's just no way to know. And everybody tried. I mean, nobody tries to make a bad movie. Obviously, they were trying to make it good, but they just somewhere there was a disconnect.
Oh, and I'm sure for some people this movie works.
Exactly. Yeah. If you like this movie, here's to you. I really wish I loved it as much as you did.
He really, really does. I don't know if you've been listening to it in the past 2 Shrek episodes.
I really, really do. I'm jealous if you love this movie. I wish I could be you.
I was going to say, it does feel like those storylines, it's like the Shrek storyline with Artie, they're making their way back, the boat crashes, they walk, get all the way there, and then it just kind of stops. And then the princess one, they're running, and then they go back, and then there's the betrayal, which, and then they get thrown in prison, and then they just come back. And then it's like the charming thing. Oh, he takes over the kingdom. And then what? He puts on a play.
One thing, really quick thing. The one thing that this movie did do that I loved was the scene of all the princesses coming out like, ah!
So you like the use of Led Zeppelin and Heart.
It worked. It made it, well, okay. Yeah, I would say it worked.
The princesses fighting is very funny.
It was entertaining.
What was funnier for me was, I don't know who voices Queen.
The Queen
Julie
was...
Andrews?
Yeah, Julie Andrews.
Julie Andrews. Her headbutting the wall to get that made me laugh pretty
and
hard.
then humming a song from Sound of Music.
Yep.
Yeah.
That made me laugh pretty hard.
Mom, why don't you go sit down?
Yeah. I'm sorry. I forgot about that. Okay, yeah, that was actually really good
They did John
part,
Cleese dirty. They did that character, the king,
Oh,
dirty.
yeah.
Because, like, the scene, it's another thing. A lot of the humor just feels off. Like, that is in very poor taste. Like, he, like, dies, and they're like, the frog king is dead. And I go,
It just
okay.
felt weird.
Oh, hey, we're back. And then and he's like, now he's gone. Oh, no, he's back. And I'm just sitting there like,
it just felt like,
we're making fun of him dying?
yeah, like, it was like, that was emotional in the second movie when he died at the end. I'm like, oh my God, no.
But he didn't die.
Right. Yeah, he didn't actually.
But then, like, the funeral, I'm like, they're playing a Bond
They
song,
played
and he's in
We're
a
living
shoebox,
that
and I'm
time.
going,
like, it was just...
and there's a whole chorus of frogs, and I'm
Like,
thinking...
It's like they pushed it too far
It's-
because it was a Shrek movie and they thought that they could, but they're
That's-
making fun of death.
I think that's what I think it was. They're like, oh, we can make fun of anything. We're untouchable.
Such a weird tonal scene, because
That
half
is-
of it's supposed to be really sad and serious, but they're telling jokes at the same time when everyone looks sad, and it's a Bond song.
It's like, you
A
can't...
Bond song?
Yeah, Live and Let Die.
It's not...
Oh.
I don't know if that was actually made for Bond, was it?
Huh.
Yes. That's for the movie,
Yeah,
Live and Let Die.
it's the name
That's
of
Paul
the
McCartney.
movie.
Well, I knew who it
'Cause
was.
then
I didn't realize it was
after
written for the...
they do like the big upbeat Bond part.
Every Bond movie's song is written for that
Well,
Bond
okay,
movie.
Yes, I forgot. I should have known that.
So
They're
it's
named the names of the movies.
Thanks.
most of the time.
Yeah,
most of the time.
Yeah.
But those songs don't exist beforehand. They were written specifically for that movie.
Huh.
So it's like this. It's like, what? It's a weird music choice. It's
it
weird
is.
tone stuff.
Mhm.
It's like, are we supposed to take this seriously? Like, he's actually dead. We just killed a major character and we're telling jokes.
That's funny that you say that we say that because like them pushing the Shrek formula like that hard, and then they pull back times where it doesn't make sense, like when they're going through the woods and is it the pirates that pop out and
What
he's
the
playing-
action scene?
yeah he's
the
playing that
piano.
show tune where in previous Shrek movies that's when the big pop song comes
Yeah.
in that everybody loves, and
Mhm.
I don't even remember what was there, but it was nothing there.
Yeah,
I really...
It felt weird.
Like, I'll be honest with you, and granted, this was like I watched this in our little thing a little bit ago, but just the majority of the middle of the movie, it's forgettable. Like, I realistically
the whole thing is pretty forgettable.
yeah, like when you're like, and I know these things happen, like the plot, like what the different things happen in the middle, but I forgot about it until you said it. Like, oh, that's right, that did happen.
Yeah,
Like,
it's really weird choices. It's a bunch of really weird choices strung together.
yeah, it's like they couldn't tell if they wanted to keep making it like a Shrek movie and making fun of things, and then trying to do something different. Like, they kept bouncing back and forth between those two.
But I feel like there's also a
Vibes.
way to do that where you innovate at least a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, you can't keep hitting the same, like doing the same shtick because it will get old after a while.
Mm.
But you have to find a better way to incorporate new vibes in it than what they did.
So yeah, I think I mentioned in the other ones. It's a different writing team. If I didn't already mention that, so I think
Makes
all three. I
sense.
think all three. The first three would have a different writing team. Which props to Shrek 2's writing team because that's a difficult task and they went above and beyond. And then this one kind of crashed and burned. And yeah, what the sad thing is in these situations where these types of movies that are bad, they make so much money because you don't go into that opening weekend knowing it's bad.
Mm-hmm.
And then people still
You
go see
see-
it because, oh, it's a kid's
'cause
movie.
it's-
Oh,
it's
it's a
a big
Shrek
name.
movie.
That's what gets the money.
It just
We
makes
don't
me
believe
sad.
that it's really being bad. Critics are just too harsh.
Yeah, even though the audience score is 52%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody else is just too harsh. They don't know.
It's just always funny when I say, oh, I've heard that it's not good. Oh, I don't listen to the critics. And I'm like, well, I mean, I do just to see what the initial reaction, and then I make my own opinion. Sometimes they turn me off to a movie because, yeah, everyone is saying it's bad. that's what critics are for.
Yeah.
To give you
To
that
find-
those early reactions, and also a lot of times make you see things or think about things differently.
Well,
That's what critics should be for.
That, and also not all critics are. Well, what I like is finding one that you actually agree a lot with,
Yes.
and then that way you know actually what you're to expect, and you still have to form your own opinion on it, though. And sadly, my own opinion on this was not
Great.
too
No.
bad.
No.
Although I feel like at the time, walking out of the theater, I probably didn't dislike it as much as I do now, but I didn't love it.
I think the problem is it's not even like funny bad. Like
No.
Shark Tale, funny bad.
Mm-hmm.
B movie.
V movie.
B movie.
Funny bad.
Argue that it was bad.
That's a different video.
It's a different video.
We'll get
That's
there.
the
We'll get
next,
there.
that's the next episode.
Oh, is it really?
I
It
think
is.
that's
B
next.
is
Oh,
next.
I'm excited.
Oh,
So
it's
yeah,
coming down.
B movie, the best DreamWorks movie from 2007. It is.
Yeah, honestly, that's fair.
I think it's just these two.
Regardless, can we talk about the color palette choice for Shrek
Oh,
2?
by all means.
Because let me tell you, first two movies, for their times, bright, vibrant, full of life. This one, muted.
Yeah.
I don't know. Again, this is not on the animators or the colors or the riggers, whatever. Whoever does what job, you were doing your job. You did it to the best that you did, and we truly appreciate it. We
Yes.
really do. But the choice to make everything this pale
Washed out.
and everything, it doesn't look like there's a foreground or a background. It just kind of
Yeah.
just blends
just
together.
kind of
in
looks like it's there, and it's
Yeah.
boring. It takes the life out of it.
The fight scene in the woods felt like there's like no props to this set piece. There's some trees, like not the ones that are fighting, but like there's some trees and like a couple rocks. Like it just looks so barren.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why, because the last movie there's a lot of detail.
Yeah, and I know
A
we
lot.
talked a lot about that. Obviously, we don't know what happened behind the scenes and like
Yep.
how this actually happened. But I have just wonder if more so for this one than any of the other ones, they really just tried to push it out for. I mean, obviously, every movie is made to make money, but if they really just wanted to just get this out there, like to maybe hit a date or to maybe hit a specific time, and they just focused on getting it out instead of polishing it up.
How many
Who
years
knows?
were between Shrek 2
3.
and Shrek 3?
Three
Yeah,
years.
it's usually 3 years. I think it's 01, 04, 07, and 10. I
Okay.
gotta check my Shrek Forever After year. I feel like that's
Maybe there was some kind
Yeah,
of contract
That's
thing.
what I have wonder. If that's why, they just decided, like,
Or
okay,
just
we're going to
the,
get it.
the hype for Shrek was dying, so they're like, oh, we got to get this back out there.
Which aren't they actually thinking of making a fifth one?
they've already announced it.
They
Think-
have.
I don't know if my
It's-
heart can take it.
If it lets me down again, I would
Well,
be very sad.
Before that even comes out, the second Puss in Boots is next year.
Yeah.
Because I think this year
That's
is
weird.
The second Spirit, the second Boss Baby. So far, as of this recording,
Yeah.
Spirit has not come out. And then I think next year there's an original one, and then a Puss in Boots one, and then the year after I think is Shrek.
That's when Shrek 5 is. Okay.
Somewhere in there. I think that's right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is May when we record this, so
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
see. We'll see how that one turns out, because I mean,
Your poor love of Shrek.
Yeah.
It's taken such a hit
Like-
in this.
1, 2, 3, 4. Like
Yeah.
that. Like that's kind of like the way that my heart went with
don't
it.
forget
And-
Puss in Boots. That counts.
Okay,
That's part of
so-
the franchise.
1, 2, 3, 4.
It's about in there. I like Puss in Boots better than Shrek the Third, but
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's
Here-
fine.
here's another interesting thing, just because I like to think about weird things like this. How much of this do you think had to do with like what was popular at the time? Like, were college movies like popular at the time Shrek 3 came out?
07, maybe American Pie was hitting around that time.
I know the
we
first
have-
one's like 99.
The first American Pie.
Something like that. College movies have always been around. I think the early 2000s was like the big like stoner comedy college movie, like because we can get really risque with our humor.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's when they hit it big. I don't think
Because I wonder.
the college thing was everything they're wrapping on. I just feel like they're trying to bank on the Shrek success, and it's like It's almost like aliens writing what they think a Shrek movie
Well, because
is.
then when you get to the fourth one, it's kind of feeling like they're trying to bank on the success of like the resurgence of nerds like D&D and Lord of the Rings.
That really is actually
and
true.
I think that's because this one doesn't... It's a Shrek movie, but it doesn't lean into the fantasy and fairy tales like the other two do as much. And then that fourth one goes full hard back into it. Yeah. I think that's why they do recapture a bit of the magic in the fourth one. Not the whole thing, but it's I think even on a second watch especially, it's much better than this third one. Which
is interesting because I remember watching it in the theaters. I don't remember much because that was a long time ago. But one of the few things that came to me was Merlin feels weird and feels out of place. Which is weird to think in a movie that is so based in fantasy. It's I don't know what they did to make him feel out of place for me.
I think because that's not really a fairy tale, isn't it? That's like folklore, isn't it?
It's still in the fantasy genre.
He's in a Disney movie-ish.
But that's not really a fairy... Like, that's not a movie that's a bunch of fairy tales. It's like a character from a completely different kind of... Maybe it's still fantasy, but it's not like these old fairy tales. It's something different.
Maybe that's what it was. Because, like, even Shrek 2 was still... There was a fair amount of fairy tale lore, like obviously, like all like the potions and spells like that. Like that's very fairy tale-esque. And then Merlin is kind of like King Arthur, like Knight Sword and kind of stuff. Like it's a departure from like your standard fairy tales, and that's why it came across as just.
Well, what's interesting is, you know, in the stories, Merlin is always the teacher of King Arthur.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I get why, I guess. It just...
Yeah, I mean, that's probably... Yeah, you're right. That is why they would have brought him in, but it just felt forced.
The writing for him's pretty bad, too.
Yeah.
Like, again, you made Eric Idle boring and, like, he's funny. He's really funny. How do you mess this up? I don't understand.
I really don't know. Yeah, there's a good movie in there somewhere. You really gotta... dig through 6 feet of crap to find it, but it's hidden. It's in there.
Yeah.
I think the base, like we said, I think the base Shrek story is the strongest story. It just gets muddled with things that try too hard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It feels like it's a Shrek movie making fun. It's like it's self-aware that, hey, this is a Shrek movie. And there's only so far you can go with subversion. Because that first movie, no one expected that. And then the second movie, it's like, hey, let's take this and push it farther and expand it. And now this one, it's like, okay, we have to keep expanding because otherwise it's a step down, which ends up being a step down anyway. But it just doesn't feel right.
They pushed it in a different direction than the natural flow of Shrek was leading it to. Because, like, again, like I said, it makes logical sense for this one to explore him actually having to be a king and him having to be a dad. Like, that is the next logical step in events.
And I think having Charming as the villain throws it off a little because as the other two were villains unique to their own movie, this is a pre-existing character that we have now he was already a, supporting villain. Now he is the villain. His motivation makes sense, but it's just this weird, like, we're already used to it. Like, this just doesn't feel the same.
Why are we using him again? Why are we using cartoon Jamie Lannister? Like,
it's almost like it doesn't make sense without his mother there.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't know if they were trying to, like, make that feel like a lineage of, like, evil. Like, oh, he has to step into his mother's shoes and be the next big bad.
And they straight up kill him.
Yeah.
They've killed all 3 villains.
Yeah. Did they kill Farquaad?
Oh, the dragon ate him.
Oh,
he got eaten.
Yeah. Homie.
And he's staying alive in the belly.
Yeah, doesn't he have
in the Shrek in the Swamp thing. Yeah, but I think he's been digested. He's a ghost in Scared Shrekless, isn't he? I thought you're the Shrekky.
I thought, for some reason, I saw him have a cameo in Shrek 4.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
And if it was, it'd be in that different timeline.
Yeah, it would have been in like the leader.
And then this one, they straight up drop a building on him. Like that set piece was like an actual, like big, like actually built thing, and they just drop it on. Maybe. He just smashes him, and I go.
Well,
So yeah, that's
you gotta do what you gotta do, I guess.
way to end it. Yeah.
Yeah. My sister, back when this came out, had I think the funniest review of it in one sentence. It was, "Wow, this feels like the first two movies combined, but worse." She said that to me. She's 16 at the time, so of course, in high school, looking down on these kids' movies. I'm in middle school. I'm like, I like this, and she's like, this just feels like the same but worse. She's right.
Yeah, it feels like the same but worse. That is a really, really good way to put it.
But the good thing is, the next movie is better. It's a nice ending to the story. Don't know what they're going to do for a fifth movie. And then Puss in Boots is all right. We'll get to those. But, at least this wasn't the last thing.
Yeah.
Some of it's
I would have been
redeemed.
very, very sad if this was the last movie. But
Yeah.
we'll see what's going to happen in the fifth one. It's going to be interesting. To say
Especially with the
The
time
Shrek
gap.
babies are going to be Shrek adolescents.
Oh my God.
And the whole movie is him teaching them to drive.
Oh, you should write that down. Literally, keep it on a piece of paper until the movie comes out. I would not be surprised if that's what they did.
Did they have a driver's ed for carriages joke in this
Wait.
movie? Wasn't that at the college? I think someone was learning to drive a carriage. I thought it was a side joke.
They might have.
Somewhere in one of these movies they've made that joke, but it's real quick.
I think you're right. I think that was.
And I did laugh at the frankincense and myrrh thing. That was funny.
I would think it probably would have been Shrek 2 if that joke was in there. Because they really put a lot more into the city. In
But I also
Shrek.
feel like it would have been at the college. Even
That's
though it's a
true.
high school trope, they kind of just threw everything in there. That's kind of the way they just kind of threw everything into it because it's hey, it's Shrek, it will sell. Let's make this big.
It
epic.
definitely did sell.
Yeah. Well, that's probably honestly what the team was thinking about is that, hey, it's the third Shrek. People are gonna come to see it. We don't have to worry about creating a super interesting thing to get them to come back. They're already probably going to come back, so we can maybe ease our writing muscle. I don't know.
And
Maybe they had to rush
$1
through to get on to the next thing. Which, what was the next thing? I mean, other than B-movie.
Kung Fu Panda was after B-movie, and the other movie that year is Madagascar Escape to Africa. So
Right.
Kung Fu
Maybe they had
Panda...
to
They
rush
did have
through.
better stuff coming out.
Maybe they had to rush through it to get to Kung Fu Panda.
Maybe.
And
Yeah.
Shrek movies really are printing money, because that fourth one I feel wasn't as big of an impact, just because I remember it coming out and just kind of forgetting about it, but it made $753 million worldwide. So it's not like it failed. And even the Puss in Boots movie made almost $600 million. They make money.
They make money. You put Shrek on in the title and you pretty much are printing money.
And there were no cameos that I can remember from the Shrek movie in Puss in Boots.
Oh God, no! Yeah, Puss in Boots is pretty much its own thing.
Yeah. I remember watching it and being surprised. I'm surprised I haven't seen Donkey anywhere.
Yeah. You would have
But
thought
we have
they
another
would've-
movie coming, so we'll see
Well,
what they do.
yeah.
There's also a TV show. They did a 60
there was a
episode Puss in Boots TV show.
Oh, there have been so many spin-offs. Or I guess not.
Well, that's what DreamWorks has done with a lot of these is they become TV shows and they go straight to Netflix.
It's usually on Netflix. Yeah.
Because Kung Fu Panda had a couple shows, and Country Dragon has a couple shows. That's how they build their universe. Madagascar now has that kid show.
Yeah.
When they're little.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Well, and the Penguin show and the King Julian mini show thing on Netflix or whatever. They're cranking out a lot. I really don't want to keep talking about Shrek.
Yeah,
I'm starting to talk about other movies. I'm like, let's move on to other movies.
I think we're all set on this one.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts other than this?
I mean,
this
I don't
is
want to.
one of the worst movies of this whole challenge.
I don't want to leave it at. Well, it is, but I don't want to leave on a bad note because there were still some fun things in the movie.
Well, he stuck that guy when he was knighting him. I thought that was funny. I know okay, that's funny.
Yeah, it had its moments. I really wish I loved this as much as probably some other people do, but.
I mean, like I said, the primary Shrek story is the good story. It's just, it wavers.
Mm-hmm.
Has a bunch of unnecessary stuff.
Yeah.
And it broke up the primary relationship that made the movie. If you think about it, the Shrek and Fiona relationship is the primary thing that carries the other two.
Yeah. the crux of the whole thing.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and they don't break it up, but they separate it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And when they're separated in the second movie, the point of the plot is
for them
getting back.
Exactly.
Whereas this one, it's
how do I skirt my responsibility?
let's go on this quest.
Great message. Great message.
Because how does he learn his lesson? That's the other thing.
Does he learn his lesson?
No, he just kind of changes, and the whole thing with like him lying to Artie to save him makes no sense.
And was there some kind of like liar reveal where
it's like he's like telling you, "No, I just said that so you'd come. Now get out of here." And I'm like,
okay,
Artie, you're not that much of an idiot. And he's like, and I go, Artie, you idiot. And then Charming just lets him leave. I'm like, well, I mean, this is kind of the other area. Might want to take care of this from a villain standpoint. And then when Donkey has to knock sense into Artie, he's like, Shrek saved your life. I go, Artie, you're an idiot.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're going to put you in charge of a kingdom? You can't even figure out your own problems. I just, as a kid, I remember thinking, like, none of this is working. What is this? What is this? Like, I want to like this. What's going on?
Mm-hmm.
This doesn't feel like the other two.
Doesn't have magic. All right.
Yeah.
Well, on that note.
Well, that was the 14th episode of That Works, a DreamWorks podcast. Our next episode is going to be the granddaddy of all absurdist fantasies, B-movie, the brainchild and labor of love from one Jerry Seinfeld.
Were you going to say Love Child? It's not like you're about to say Love Child. I'm serious.
I wasn't.
It's 2021.
It's 2020. But yeah, that's the podcast. You're going to drop the...
Oh, yes. Yes, that is the podcast. And also, follow us on all socials. We got Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all that good stuff. Just at Off Slate Media. Find us, and we're constantly uploading and promoting new stuff.
Yeah, it took us 14 weeks into this podcast to finally say that because we're in it with the kids.
Yeah, we're cool.
We're yeet.
Right?
What do the kids say?
We're yeet.
I'm asking you.
We're
You're the
yeet.
walking Zoomer dictionary.
No, that's apparently that works. We're yeet.